Hi, I'm Jeff. I do research and development for Precision. Today we're going to show you how to put in the glass run for an 81-87 GM pickup truck, and it fits up to a 91 for the Suburban and Blazer. The part number is GRK111081. Some of the tools you're going to need for this job are a ratchet, commonly a 7/16 size is what you're going to need for some of the bolts, pliers, a clip tool, a spring clip tool for the crank window if you have manual windows, some weather strip installation tools, and a Phillips head screwdriver. And some glass cleaner will help you lubricate the glass channel. And a set of safety glasses should be worn as well. Okay, I'm going to give you a little rundown on what you need to disassemble in order to put this glass run in. One thing to note, that the difference between the left and the right is this clip. The vertical section will go toward the outside of the vehicle, and it's going to go like this to give you an idea of how it's held in there now. One clip here and this metal clip here. What you're going to need to do is remove the window crank, remove the screws that hold in the latch cover, remove the lock cover, and then there's a series of screws around the bottom of the door and on the door rest here that you will need to remove. And then you're going to have to loosen up the mechanism that holds the glass in, which we'll get to later. So first thing you got to do is roll down the glass and get the old part out. Okay, now with the window rolled down, we can remove the old glass channel. What's very common for these is to be dried out. They're just rubber, so they're going to get dry and very brittle. So don't be alarmed if they break as you pull them out. We're going to end up taking off the door panel and everything, so we're going to be able to pick up the pieces in the bottom of the door if there are any. What works good for this is actually our clip removal tool. Now, if you have a really nice paint job, you'll probably want to tape this off a little bit and make sure you don't scratch it. But you can use your fingers to kind of try to get it started. And this one isn't too bad. It's pretty dry. I'm just kind of squeezing it together and pulling it out. And when you get down to here, you should be able to pull up on it. If it's really too dry and brittle, you have to get that part out later. But just keep pulling down, and as you see, it's going to kind of break. There, that section's out. Now remember, there's a clip here and a clip here, so these might be a little more difficult to get out. Now you notice that's where the clip goes, but it's broken off. We'll get that out with a pair of pliers. Gonna pull this out, and then you can pull up on it. Now these aren't really that dry, so they're coming out really easy. You may have them where they break off inside the door, and we'll get those out later if that would happen. I gotta come back and get this clip. Take a pair of pliers. Now this clip is just plastic. Okay, now we're gonna take off the door panel. This is gonna be the same whether you have a truck, a pickup truck, or a Blazer. For this model, they're all pretty much the same. You want to start with this right here. If you don't, you can break this when you pull off the panel. Now we'll do the window crank. This is a manual window. If you have a powered window, you'll have to disconnect the actual wires to the switch once you get the panel halfway off. So this one you're going to need our clip removal tool that works really nice. And how you're going to do this is put this vertical, and you always want to push the opposite way of how this is on. So you simply slide this behind. There's a plastic washer and then the actual crank arm. You want to be in between those two things. Now make sure you kind of keep your hand here as you push down, and you'll hear it right there. And it'll simply slide off. Next you want to take out 2 screws here, 2 screws here, 1 here, and then a few along the bottom of the door. This will pop right off. Keep in mind there's a rubber grommet that goes on the inside. This works good for holding all your screws. Okay, now we have all the screws out. Let's kind of double check here, 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 around the bottom. And you can kind of pull off the panel. Now this particular model does not have any other clips to it. It's just held on by some clips in the belt line here. So what you want to do is kind of pick it up and push it that way to get the clips released from the body. And at a certain point, you have to remember to kind of get the handle out, but normally it's easier to get the whole thing up first. Like that. And this is where, at the time, you would disconnect any power cords going to, if you have power locks or power windows. The best way to do this is to loosen up this glass. We have all the glass channels out. If you broke it off, this is where you could reach in the door and get it out of the channel, but ours pulled out pretty easy. So what you want to do is loosen this bolt right here and this one right here, and that'll allow you to drop where the glass channel goes inside the door here, thereby allowing you to slide the glass back this way, and then it'll allow you to put the glass run in. So why don't we take care of that here. And this is 7/16 for this door, and that's what most doors should be. Okay, this is where foaming glass cleaner comes in real handy. You just kind of want to spray the glass run, not much, just a little, and that's going to help you put it into the channel better. So just kind of guide it down the door for right now. Use the tool here to seat it all the way in. And it should be pretty well level when you put it in. Now this is where you're going to want to roll up the window and then reach from the inside to get the rest of it as it comes down the door. Okay, you're going to roll up the window a little bit here. And what you want to do is reach in, and the reason we roll up the window is so we could get, this track runs all the way down the door here. And we want to seat it in down here like we did up here. So you have to reach into the door for this part. Kind of have to work off how it feels, but it's just a U channel like on top. And the glass run may not go all the way down to the tip of your channel, and that's okay. There's no contact with the glass there. And then use the tool here like we did on top. And there's a little window right here that you can kind of see in if you want to. Okay, that should be it for the front. Now you can roll the window back down. Now you want to do the exact opposite. You want to kind of slide the glass all the way forward. and kind of force it into the channel on the bottom. And spin it. Now we have the glass run kind of hanging in the door. So what you're going to have to do, it's kind of hard to see, but hold this part with one hand and push the glass channel in with the other hand. But you should have plenty of room because the glass you pushed all the way forward. What I probably need to do is pull this out a little bit here. Just to get it out of the way, because you have to slide it all the way up to this bolt hole here. Kind of line it back up, and you notice chances are if you're redoing it without redoing the paint, you're going to have a little paint line here, and that's where you want it, because these things are adjustable, so you want to put it right back to where it was. But for right now, we're just going to start it, and later when you fully tighten it, you want to have it up over here like that. So let's finger tighten it for right now. And pull the channel back in here. Once again, all we're doing is kind of pinching it and put it into the channel. You want to get it pretty well seated. Once we get the glass back in, we'll roll it up and down a few times, and that'll help finish seating it into the channel area, but you can't have it sticking out too much. Okay, now we got the glass run back in the door a little bit, and we start feeding it in. What you want to do is raise the glass up a little bit, and that'll give you a lot more room for your arm to get in here. So it's still not bolted here, it's just bolted here, so it's going to move on you a little bit, and that's what you want. Just kind of hold it with one hand. And you'll feel it go in here. Okay, now that's back in. We'll put the bolt back in here. But you're going to have to lower the glass. And what is really important is to make sure it's seated all the way forward. So drop it almost to the bottom. You'll kind of feel it click into the glass run here. And what you need to really do on the back one here, now we're going to put this bolt in, is it's going to have to swing this way, and you want to make sure that the glass is inside the channel. If not, you're going to be tightening and it's never going to work, and you're probably never going to get it together. Kind of reach in. You'll kind of feel it get seated in. Kind of line up everything here. Your hole isn't quite lining up here. If you look here, there we go. That's why it's important to kind of keep this one a little bit loose so you can move it around. And then check, and I'm outside where I need to be, so I gotta put the glass in. You can kind of test it. Everything's not tightened up yet, but it should roll up and down. It's in the track here, and it's going to be quite a bit stiffer than your old one, and that's because it's going to seal better. And keep rolling it up, and as you're rolling it up, it's going to help seat everything all the way through the channels, and then get to the top, kind of make sure you crank it in. And you can kind of see that it just shifted a little bit there. And roll it back down. Everything's lined up good. So now all you have to do is put everything back in reverse order. So we'll start with these bolts here. This still needs to come off. Put the door panel back on, put all the screws in, and then roll it up and down again. Make sure everything works, but you want to test it now like we just did to make sure that everything is working correctly before you put everything back together. And this is where the trick comes in, and making sure that it's lined up with your old paint lines here. You don't want to over tighten them, just make sure they're nice and snug. You don't want them coming loose either. And normally what I'll do is just try the window once again, now that everything's kind of tightened down. Unfortunately, if you have power windows, you got to hook them back up in order to do this, but so we'll put the panel back on here. Kind of same thing, you got these metal clips here on the belt line. It's be a really good time to replace the belt line if you have this all apart. And then you're going to line up with some metal slots right in the door frame. So kind of get the door handle into the opening. Before you start banging on everything, get it locked in, you might want to put this back on so you don't lose that part of it. Kind of line it up. Kind of slight taps until you hear it click in. Everything should line up pretty good here. Our tray is full of screws, so you have to remember which ones go where. And the trick to remember for the lower screws here is that they kind of go in at an angle, not straight. Okay, make sure this rubber grommet is still back on there. Kind of pull the handle out. Okay, let's double check. You shouldn't have any problems at all because we didn't mess with the hinge. Now, it's time to put the window crank back on. If you have power windows, you just have to clip it back in. So what we want to do is start from the bottom, the opposite end of this. You want to put the spring clip all the way back on, like that, and then put this back on. Normally, when the window's down, you want the crank somewhere around here, but it really doesn't matter. And then you got the splines you want to line up, and then once it lines up, like that, you just push it. And you hear that click, and now it's on. That spring clip is on. So everything's back together, so you try the window. Like I said, it's going to be more difficult than before, but everything, there's no rattle at all, and that's what you want. And you're done. We hope you found this video informative. If you have any questions, please contact us via the phone number or social media. And remember to request a precision part from your local retailer.